Welcome back to Lady Justice, Women of the Court. I'm Justice Beth Walker of the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia, and I'm thrilled to be back with my friend, Arkansas Justice Rhonda Wood. We are recording in January, so can I still say Happy New Year, Rhonda? How are you?
Good. It's good to see you, Beth. Yes, we can say Happy New Year, even though it's a little bit further into January. I'm very excited to see you. Life is good here in Arkansas. Life is better for you. I'm very proud of you, Beth, I have to say, for doing the dopey. So if our listeners know that Justice Walker is now dopey because of doing the massive Disney, and I won't get this right, Beth, so you'll have to remember, but you did what is it, like a 5K, 10K, 15K in the marathon?
Yeah, so I completed, and to the extent I wasn't dopey before, I am now. I did the dopey challenge down at Walt Disney World. So on Thursday, I did a 5K. Friday, not this Thursday, a few weeks ago. Thursday, a 5K. Friday, a 10K. Saturday, a half marathon. And Sunday, a marathon. So 48.6 miles in 4 days. A little physical fitness challenge. As our listeners know, I'm kind of a well-being aficionado, so it was setting a challenge for myself and meeting it, and it was very rewarding, and I had a lot of folks cheering for me. So
I sat in Arkansas on my couch with my phone in the very cold weather and just monitored you and your status on the phone, and so I just watched you. But I was so proud of you. But and then I thought maybe I should get out and do this. And I thought, no, I'll just live vicariously through Beth. So, but congratulations, Beth.
Thank you so much. It was really a lot of fun, and those events are so positive. There were 20,000 people in each race, so I was with a lot of people who were very inspiring to me. A lot of people raising money for good causes. A lot of people with challenges in their lives. So I enjoyed it very much. But today for our podcast, we're doing something a little bit different. Rhonda and I, of course, are in two different locations, as we usually are. But I'm actually located in Nashville, Tennessee, in the same room as our special guest for today, who we're going to introduce in just a moment. But I have to take a moment and say we are in this amazing podcast studio that's been set up by the Administrative Office of the Tennessee Courts. So we must give a huge shout out and thanks to our new friends in Tennessee for the technical support and hospitality for this new little adventure we're doing for this episode. And this is just the first of what I think will be several new things about our podcast as we go forward, because of course we're maintaining our elite status as the top podcast on any platform, hosted by sitting state Supreme Court justices. Okay, to be fair, we are the only podcast co-hosted.
You don't have to tell that.
Yeah.
By sitting state Supreme Court justice. But I'm still embracing our top status. We are at the top of the market, at the top of our game. So today we have two special guests. Justice Jeff Bivins of the Tennessee Supreme Court, someone Rhonda and I have known for a while, and Anne-Lousie Wirthlin, who is Director of Access to Justice and Strategic Development for the Administrative Office of the Tennessee Courts. Rhonda and I are so excited that you two are here to talk about, this is something we've wanted to talk about for a while, the Tennessee Justice Bus. And we'll invite first each of you to say hello and introduce yourselves to our audience. So Justice Bivins, tell us about yourself. It's so good to see you today.
It's so good to be with you and Rhonda as well. As you said, we've known each other for a good while now. It's always good to see that. Yes, my name is Jeff Bivins. I do live here in Tennessee, in the Nashville area. I've been on the Supreme Court since 2014. I served a term as Chief Justice for about 5 years, and it's my pleasure now to serve as the liaison to the Access to Justice Commission in Tennessee.
Yeah. So Jeff, it's been a pleasure to know you. I was going to say you've been active in a lot of things, and I'm not sure if Beth first met you when you guys were both chiefs, but I I think I first met you when you were involved with the Appellate Judge Education Institute and attending those meetings. I haven't seen you in a couple of years, so it's really nice to see you, even though it's virtually and I didn't get to be in Nashville with all of you. But it's great to see you, and thank you for having time, and thank you to Tennessee for being such gracious hosts for this. And then Anne-Lousie, if you want to take a minute to introduce yourself.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Anne-Lousie Wirthlin. I'm an attorney, and I've worked for the Administrative Office of the Court since 2008. I joined there overseeing the mediation program, and then shortly took over the Access to Justice program in 2010. And since then, we've just continued to expand the program with the support of the court and our other partners.
So you have been doing this for a while.
Yes.
You've been Access to Justice for how long? When did you begin with that? 2010, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's great. So you're an expert. So welcome, a warm welcome to both of you to our podcast. We, as you know, love talking about state courts and what state courts do, because I know you two know this as well as we do. Where all the real interesting things happen are in state courts in this country. Most of the cases that are filed in this country get handled in state courts. So we love to highlight what different states are doing. So that brings us to this very exciting project that we want to hear more about. And Rhonda, you took the lead on making this topic for our podcast. So why don't you kick off the interview?
Okay, so one thing that, Beth mentioned is that we do this podcast to, sort of showcase state courts and the work they do, because we think that state courts are underrated and we don't really understand why people pay attention to federal courts when state courts are the best. And that's where most people have their interaction, are state courts. And we just try to showcase that. And then selfishly, Beth and I learn, because when we're talking to other states, we learn some of the unique programs they're doing, and we selfishly then steal them for our own. But we want to showcase the good work that other states are doing. And so I am, try to be active on social media for the purpose of good, not evil, but to showcase state courts through that as well. And so I'm on Twitter. I think
Is it
now
still called Twitter?
I refuse to call it anything.
We all know it as Twitter. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Formerly known as, sort of like Prince, but I'm going to always call it that. I refuse to recognize the name change. But anyway, I was following always now retired Tennessee Justice Sharon Lee, and she posted pictures of the Tennessee Access to Justice bus. And sort of I kept following it and seeing her, and I thought, that looks phenomenal, and what a great idea, and seeing the work that was being done in Tennessee. And so I, of course, shared it with Beth and said, hey, we need to learn more about this and the work that Tennessee is doing in this area. And I just thought it was incredible. So I guess we'll start off with Jeff, if you want to tell us a little bit about the Tennessee bus.
Sure, be happy to. This is a long-term project that Anne-Lousie has spearheaded throughout a long time. It even goes back to our previous AOC director, Debbie Tate, who I think both of you may well know. We had seen it from other states, but it was a vision to be able to bring access to justice more closely to particularly the rural areas in our state. And so the effort started, but of course the major issue was funding. But after looking long, hard, and under every area, we were able to get grant money to do this. We ended up purchasing the vehicle, which is a 2021 Mercedes-Benz 2500 series cargo van. It has a very high roof. We purchased that, did a conversion on that, did wrapping of it to where it has the Access to Justice sign and Justice Bus on it. And it's been a delight, and it's been so successful because we have been able now to go to those rural areas, to use that, because it is a mobile. It has Wi-Fi access. It's set up to where you can meet with individuals on that. And as I think both of you know, oftentimes folks are scared of the justice system. So this is a way to bring it to them, to work with our faith, our folks of faith. That we have a faith group that is very helpful to us. Oftentimes we'll team up with that. We'll team up with lawyers from the rural area to do expungement clinics or wills clinics or something like that. So it's been a great tool to help us provide even more access to justice across the state.
Well, that's an amazing story, and it's to go from, it's been in operation for how long? A little over a year now?
It's been about a year and a half, right?
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
So we'll make sure we have links in our show notes to the web presence for the Justice Bus, and it's beautiful. I haven't seen it in person. I'm hoping to find it somewhere in Nashville and get a picture with it.
We can probably make that happen. That's right.
But I have to ask, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask this question, but it's probably not the first time. I'm wondering why the bus isn't orange.
Well, we wanted to be neutral. A lot of us are Tennessee fans. Others are not. So we decided not to go that route. Mm-hmm. We might sing Rocky Top on it though.
I will say, I'm going to just jump in that my brother lives, in Oak Ridge, outside Tennessee, and their Tennessee fans are crazy for Tennessee. I mean, I've never seen a fan store as big as the one in Knoxville. I mean, it's bigger than our Arkansas Walmart stores. I mean, it's like crazy stuff. So yeah, that's a good question, Beth.
Well, I can understand the need to be neutral when you're providing statewide access to folks all across your state. And as you were thinking about the idea, was anyone opposed to it, or was it just a matter of finding the appropriate funding?
That's probably, Anne-Lousie can probably answer that, but I don't think we ever had any opposition to it. It was just simply the funding was the big issue.
Yes, funding was a big issue, and then I think it was difficult for people to visualize. So we did a lot of, as Justice Bivins says, we are not the first state to have that. So we came armed with pictures and videos from some of our other states to just give people something that they could see. And then once they got the vision, we had a lot of supporters, but funding was the main obstacle.
Okay, Anne-Lousie, now that the Justice Bus has become a reality, tell us more about how it actually works.
Sure. Well, it truly is a mobile legal office. We did, as Justice Bivins said, we got the biggest option we could of a Mercedes Sprinter van. And so when you open the side door, there's a desk and there's 2 laptops that we put out there. We have a printer that we put out there. We've got drawers with all your standard office supplies. And we also have a separate office in the back with a closing door. So you could technically have 2 attorneys meeting with people, having confidential meetings. We've also been able to have 1 attorney helping folks in the bigger office space and then sending a client in that back office, and they would connect with an attorney remotely over Zoom. So you can have some of your more urban areas support the rural areas in that way.
Who decides
Sure.
where the bus goes?
Sure.
Is that what you do?
Well, I do, and then we also have a pro bono attorney coordinator that oversees a lot of our pro bono efforts. And that person also partners is head of our faith-based partnership. So as Justice Bivins said, those are where a lot of our requests come from. We also get a lot of requests from public librarians because that is a place where people go, especially in the rural areas, to get help. So we have a lot of librarians who request the bus to come out and have just a general civil legal clinic. They might want a more focused clinic on wills or something like that. And we do also do a lot of reentry and second chance expungement work as well.
In our rural areas, we have a lot of folks that don't have access to the internet, that they don't have access to Wi-Fi or anything of that nature. So our ability to bring the Justice Bus in and have that handy and have that right on site is a big deal, and it's really enabled us to broaden our spectrum and to address those issues that became, they were there before COVID, but they became very noticeable during COVID. So we think this is a great way of reaching out to those folks.
I will say, Beth, I was thinking about this and totally going off a little bit topic, but being female justices, there's not always that many. And so it means our spouses become really good friends because we end up at all these conferences. So, Mr. Walker, Mr. Wood are very good friends, and they are very interested in this like Mercedes like van RV thing. And so I was thinking that Beth, this may be the only way that this like actually comes to fruition, Beth's been wanting something, and so this may get Mr. Walker there, is that, it's for good. What do you think, Beth?
Well, I'm seeing, Anne-Louise talked about being inspired by other states who have done this. I think Kentucky has a bus, I'm told. So maybe we could just steal this bus idea and have the Lady Justice bus.
Yeah.
There you go.
And take it to the rural areas of West Virginia and Arkansas, because Jeff, that's such a good point. Just about, I think the pandemic did sort of expose this. We all thought, well, we'll just do hearings remotely, but then it becomes something where even the lawyers in some of our counties don't have stable enough internet to appear at hearings. And if lawyers can't figure it out, then you can imagine folks who are self-represented or find themselves in the legal system or needing the help of the legal system without any kind of internet or any kind of technical capability. So I think, I think we could do this for good and for fun, Rhonda. I'm already putting it together in my mind. So
Yeah. So I have a question. I don't know whether which one of you wants to answer, but have you utilized it? I know that, with access to justice, a lot of times you're giving, advice and doing things. Have they actually filed paperwork? We file electronically in Arkansas, but have you had it where individuals come in and when you're consulting them that you've actually gone online and filed paperwork from the bus?
We have not done that yet, but part of the reason is because myself and the other attorney that staffs it, we are just limited in the types of representation that we can provide. Now, if we were in a county that has e-filing and we had volunteer attorneys that could do a little bit more than we are able to do, we could do that. But that is not something we've been able to do yet. But we don't have e-filing across our state yet. So, but once that becomes more uniform, I think we will explore that. But again, myself and my colleague Kyle, we just aren't able to file paperwork for folks. We're able to give advice and counsel, but in a limited context.
Yeah, we're in the process of trying to take e-filing statewide. We kind of are behind in that area. We have some counties that can do it on a county by county basis, depending on the court. But as Anne-Louise said, it's not uniform and it's not there, so we are not able to do that electronically yet. We can do the paperwork, and the paperwork can then be taken and filed. But we are looking forward to the day when we will be able to do that. And I think Rhonda raises a great point that would be so much better and easier. But we're in the process. We have support from the administration as far as and some dedicated funds toward the e-filing system. It's just a question of getting everybody together, and in Tennessee we're not a unified court system, so we are still in the process of going through that.
Well, that was good. That was actually going to be my question. You anticipated it really well, because we've talked about that on the podcast many, many times about how different states, we love actually talking about how different states' constitutions and laws are set up entirely differently in the court systems. For example, in West Virginia, we are a unified court system. All 1,500 folks who work for the courts in West Virginia work for the Supreme Court. Explain for our audience, as a quick review, how the Tennessee courts are set up and not unified.
Yeah, Tennessee courts are not, for example, we have county judges that are often our general sessions judges, which is the small claims, and we'll do preliminary hearings in criminal cases. We have municipal judges that do that. All of our trial judges are elected in those positions, and we as the Supreme Court don't really have authority over those. And we also have the clerks who are elected officials through that process. So we can cajole and try to influence what they do, but they are definitely independent thinkers in many ways, and we don't have a way of actually mandating that to happen. That's just something that our Constitution has not provided. At one point, there was an amendment attempted to provide that many years ago, but that amendment actually failed. So there are some very strong interests involved in that. So that's part of the challenge we're seeing in statewide e-filing, is to make sure we get those folks on board. But I mean, for the most part, we have support, and it's speaking with one voice. But there are other times when it's a very difficult situation when we don't have the authority to do that.
Well, it seems like maybe the Justice Bus can be a unifying.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, it can be.
It can be. Well, and we are you all e-filing in Arkansas, Rhonda? I can't recall.
We are now, I think every county now is on e-filing. I think we had like 3 that were left holdouts, and I think now we have everybody up.
We're at 53 out of 55 counties going into this year, and it has been, and of course, you saved the 2 largest counties
Of course.
for the last ones, and those are going to be quite projects. Our capital county, Kanawha County, and our West Virginia University County, Mon County, I think, are the last 2. So we'll see how it goes.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, but more about the Justice Bus. Another question I had, and Rhonda, you probably have more questions too, is, this is the Tennessee Supreme Court, operating this as an access to justice initiative. How do you navigate the ethical, and I think you made a reference to it a couple minutes ago, you're helping people get information, but you're not representing them.
Correct.
So how do you walk that line?
Well, my colleague and I, the attorneys with the AOC that are operating the bus, we follow the same guidelines that our law clerks would follow. So we're allowed to do pro bono work as long as we don't appear in court, as long as we don't have a known conflict, and then as long as there is malpractice insurance. And we have been lucky to partner with an umbrella organization for all the legal aids in Tennessee called the Tennessee Alliance for Legal Services, and they allow us to use their malpractice policy for our clinics and for our events. And so that is what enables my colleague and I for us to provide advice. And we can provide, again, this brief advice and counsel. We have a form that we walk through clients with so they can see what we can do and what we can't do. And if it's going to be something more than that, more representation is needed, and that's oftentimes the case, we will refer to our local partners, whether it's legal aid or some of the other volunteer attorneys we've been able to recruit, and we are able to smoothly pass those folks off to them to help with that, more advice and counsel that just we can't do.
And that's a part of the reason it's so important to have volunteer attorneys in in each of the areas that we go into. And we're very blessed that in most of those we have folks that are very happy to volunteer and do that. They're happy to provide the pro bono service that's necessary, but they are a vital component of what we do as well.
Definitely.
Has it gotten more lawyers interested in serving in that capacity, just seeing the bus around the state?
I would think so, yes. We have created a online form for attorneys to volunteer, and if we know we're heading out into a particular area, we'll reach out to, if there's a organized bar association, reach out to them, reach out to the legal aid office to see if they will pass on opportunities for their volunteers. But yes, I think attorneys like the flexibility that the bus provides and just sort of the novelty of it a little bit, and then also too, you're not in your office, you're out in the community, and you're able to just have different types of interaction with different types of clients.
One of the things we've tried to do too is take the bus to conferences, judges' conferences and things like that, so people can literally see it and understand, because so many people don't really know what we're talking. When we say a justice bus, it's like, say what? So being able to see it and walk inside it and doing that, I think helps educate people, and it educates their local judges, our trial judges, and all to know that this is an asset that's out there. And they then go back and talk to their local attorneys and can encourage them to be a part of this as well.
I'm really curious, and I think listeners would be interested in if you have maybe, Anne-Louise, a particular story, an example, sort of personalized. I know you can't, identify anybody you help necessarily, but sort of some couple, examples of sort of what you've done and, stories that you've helped that maybe are particularly meaningful and impactful to you.
I'll start with how we partner with some of our expungement clinics. A lot of those clinics, depending on who the local partners are, they'll have a pre-registration component so they can pull court records and have all that there. But we also have a lot of overflow for people who whether it was cut off, they missed the deadline, or someone said, hey, you've got to come out. I saw this Justice bus on the news and you need to go and see that. So we are able to help people who perhaps miss the opportunity to participate in that event because of a cutoff deadline or registration limit. And luckily, a lot of our records are online, so we can look those up, and if somebody has a dismissal or something that wasn't prosecuted, we can fill out all the expungement work. That's how it works in Tennessee. We can help them fill out all those forms, and so then all that they would need to do is just take that to the clerk's office and file that. And we give them instructions, a little handout on what next steps are, and so somebody who just missed that event was able to get their record clean because we were able to spend about 20 minutes with them walking through what we could get come off that doesn't require court appearance, doesn't require us to do any other work other than some very simple paperwork for a lawyer.
What kind of offenses have you seen, again, not naming names, but folks being able to get removed from the record? What's common?
A lot of I would say misdemeanor things. If you look at the person you're helping and then look at how long ago a lot of that, you're helping folks who made mistakes when they were very young adults, which a lot of us made mistakes when we were very young adults. And it really is, giving them a second chance. If it was not prosecuted in Tennessee, a lot of things can come off. The conviction expungements I'm not going to go into because that is outside of our wheelhouse a bit. But it really runs the gamut. But you could take someone who, if you were to print their record off, like it could be 7-8 pages, and you can clean it up to 2 or 3 pages, which still is a record, but it's a much more manageable, I guess, and you just see this sort of sigh of relief that come over people when you're able to tell them, we're able to get. I think the most I want to say is for one person, for again non-convictions, I think we had 25 charges we were able to remove from their record, and that's a lot.
That is a lot, and I think it's so important because that helps them become employable at that point too. We'll see a lot of minor drug offenses that happen on that may be really old, and getting those off the record makes a big deal. It's a big deal.
One of the things that we're seeing in Arkansas is we're having a lot of veterans that need help with legal aid and issues. And that's when I see the Justice Bus, that's what I sort of think of as how to sort of do outreach to that community. Yeah. You had that happen where you've seen the need in veterans as you've traveled with the bus?
I can't recall a specific time when there was I would say we've helped a lot of veterans, and I think it depends on what local partner has brought us out. That organization has an impact on just the types of folks that do come out, and we do have some really great veterans courts and veterans treatment and things of that nature. So I think that is an opportunity that I think definitely we could explore more. But again, a lot of times the types of clients are dictated somewhat by which local partner has asked us to come out.
Jeff, I know you don't travel on the bus, I guess,
right,
as a Supreme Court justice. But what's been memorable about it for you in terms of, I know you've been, you supported it, you watched it come to fruition. Is it pretty much what you expected?
It is what I think it is what I expected, but partly because I knew what we were trying to do and had seen the other states. But I think what's been inspiring to me is when we do take it to these conferences and you see these other judges and other folks that come out and look at it, it's like, oh wow, that's what you're talking about. Yes, it is, and to be able to take that into areas where folks aren't represented, and knowing that without the ability to do that, these folks are not going to get the service they need. So that really is an inspiring aspect of what we've been able to do with it, and I hope that we will continue to do it. We had 35 events last year, and we've got 28 covered 28 counties out of our 95 counties, and we've already got 14 events planned for this year. So, and that's just obviously at the beginning of the year. So we're really thankful to do that. We're actually in the process of trying to get another position so that they will have a full-time coordinator for the justice bus itself.
I was going to ask, because it sounds like with that busy a schedule, that this could be a full-time job for someone.
It could very well be, yes.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, is what sort of, either of you or as a whole, do you have any future goals? Like, if you had the money, how would you sort of expand this program?
But I think this idea has come up between a few people, but I think our state is long, if you're not familiar with Tennessee,
Yeah.
but it would be great to have one in each Grand Division, because it takes over 6 hours to traverse one, the east to the west, and so we are limited by just the geography. And so if we could have one in each Grand Division, we could help a lot more. We could have more frequent events, and we could have some type of pattern where people could come and know the third Thursday the justice bus is going to be at the public library, things like that. But we're just not able to do that quite yet with just one in such a large state in 95 counties.
Yeah, people don't realize the width of Tennessee. I know, Beth, you have a home up just across the state line as well, and I grew up in the very northeast corner of the state. And the way I usually try to use as an example of when you're in the very northeast corner of the state, you're closer to Canada than you are to Memphis. So that kind of it gives you an idea of the areas we have to cover when we're going from one end of the state to the other.
Well, and you used a term that I'll have you all flesh out a little bit. We'll go on a little educational tangent to explain what the Grand Divisions are in Tennessee.
Sure.
And how I know that's is that how you all are? You all elected statewide?
We are elected statewide, but our Constitution does have provisions regarding the Grand Divisions in the Constitution. If you want me to elaborate on that.
I would love to.
Yeah, we actually, Tennessee is unique in that situation. It's recognized all the way back to our constitutional times, where we have essentially had 3 Grand Divisions. We have an East, Middle, and West Grand Division. Our Constitution addresses that from a judicial branch capacity in 2 different ways. Number one is we're required as the Supreme Court to sit in each Grand Division to hear cases from time to time. So we actually have a courthouse in Knoxville for East Tennessee, Nashville for Middle Tennessee, and Jackson for West Tennessee. So we hear cases in all 3 of those locations. The other way the Constitution addresses is the composition of the court itself. We're a 5-member court, like I know you are, Beth, but the Constitution provides that no more than 2 justices can be from any Grand Division. So the effect of that is obviously you're going to have 1 from each Grand Division, and 2 of the Grand Divisions will have 2, but you cannot have more than 2 of the 5 justices coming from any Grand Division of the state. So, for example, currently we have 1 justice from East Tennessee, we have 2 from Middle, and 2 from the West.
Well, we do love, and Rhonda's nodding because we do love geeking out on
That's right.
on state constitutions. Did you know about the Grand Divisions, Rhonda?
Yes, I knew they sat in the different divisions, and it's always fascinated me. And I've never really understood though how you can only have 2, so how that works when you run for office. How if someone wants to run, they have to wait till someone or you just have to move.
Well, it gets,
that's been the only quirky thing. I don't understand how.
It does get complicated from time to time. We actually, even though there is a residency requirement regarding the Grand Division, we run in retention elections statewide. It's a statewide election when we do that. But for example, one of our current justices is retiring as of the end of August. He lives in West Tennessee. Well, that means that someone from West Tennessee could take that position, or because we only have 1 justice currently from East Tennessee, it could come from East. So the person to fill that position could come from East or West. What it couldn't do is come from Middle, because there are 2 of us in Middle who are not retiring right now. So it totally depends on where the vacancy is and what the current composition of the court is. We're appointed initially, so you can look at that and determine. And the call when it's sent out specifies where the individuals may come from.
And I probably should have put a finer point on that when I started, because you are, like many other states, kind of a hybrid of elections on one hand and appointments on the other hand, where you mix first starting out being appointed and then having to run statewide in a retention election.
Correct. And it also changed in 2016 as well, because adoption of an amendment to the state constitution. Previously to that, it was just appointment by the governor and then stand for retention elections. There was some dispute as to whether retention elections, quote unquote, were elections which were required under the Constitution. So as a compromise for that, there was an amendment adopted, and the people actually adopted it as well, that provides that you still have gubernatorial appointment, but then there's also legislative confirmation of that position. So I was one of the last ones who didn't have to go through legislative confirmation. Justice Roger Page was our first one, who's the person retiring, but he was the first one that actually had to go through legislative confirmation. And the way the amendment works, you go through that, and then you face retention elections after that. So anyone who's appointed either to our intermediate appellate courts, and we have a court of appeals and a court of criminal appeals, so civil and criminal side, either one of those courts or the Supreme Court, you have to go through legislative confirmation.
Okay, Rhonda, I took us totally off script with that but I knew you would approve. Do you have any follow-up questions for all of that?
No, but I'm so glad that we did, because I was hopeful that we were, because we always try to learn about other states, and we want listeners to learn that that's, part of federalism is that states get to do things their own way, and it's up to that state to set, the policy and how their state's going to work. So we like to educate on different states. So I'm glad that, Jeff was ever able to do that. And so, no, it's great.
So anything before we shift over to our little closing segment, Anne-Louise, anything else you want to tell us about? Where's the next, do you know where the next stop for the Justice Bus is?
We only have, we're hanging out in Middle Tennessee, which is where Nashville is, through February, because we are not equipped for ice or things of that nature.
The Justice Bus does not have chains.
That's right.
So we are in Middle Tennessee again through February, and then April is a big month for us. Access to Justice Wise, we call it Help for TN Month, and we'll have at least 8 events, and it really traverses the state. So just gearing up for April. But we have a calendar online, which I know you'll put in the notes, and we also have a very strong social media presence. So please follow us and check out where we're going and how we're able to help people.
Well, we will continue to follow the Justice Bus. One last question, going to the point Rhonda made earlier about Mr. Walker and Mr. Wood. Is there a refrigerator on the Justice Bus?
We did not put a refrigerator on the Justice Bus, but we could. We have a lovely outfitter that we worked with and that we continue to work with. They do all the buses for all the big country stars, so they can do anything. Yeah.
That is good to know, and we will plan accordingly. But as I said, now it is time for our lightning round. This is the part of the podcast when we give answers to questions that may or may not, and usually don't, have anything to do with our topic for today. Jeff and Anne-Louise, we hope you are willing to play along. Sure. We won't make you go first, so I'll ask the questions, and then we'll answer them in this order: Rhonda first, then Jeff, then Anne-Louise, and then me. So it's relatively quick answers. You're allowed to explain them if they need explanation, but usually just a short answer. And I'll start with you, Rhonda, with what is the most used app on your phone?
Probably, I would say either the Message app or the Notes app, because I'm constantly putting notes or checking my messages.
How about you, Jeff?
Notes would definitely be one of the most used, and GPS Waze is probably the other one, because traffic is so bad in the Nashville area, we turn it on regardless of where we're going.
Yep. I would agree, Waze, and then any type of Remind app. I've got young kids, 8 and 10-year-olds, so keeping track of them, and teachers' Remind app. Yeah.
Nice. Well, mine is probably messaging as well, although I do use my Garmin app when I walk in the morning, so that's a regular feature as well. Now we'll get into more maybe controversial territory. I don't know. Question 2 is, who is your favorite country music artist, past or present? Rhonda.
Okay, so I don't listen to country music. But I will tell you that my husband had me go to a Garth Brooks concert recently, and I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I enjoyed him as much as I enjoyed the audience that knew every word to every song. And the experience was so great. And I felt a little dumb because I didn't know a lot of them. But so I guess I'd have to go to that because I don't know if that's the only country music artist I've ever gone to, but he puts on a good show.
Well, thank goodness, because we're in Nashville, that you had an answer.
I know. So Jeff, what about you?
You know, I have to go back to Dolly Parton. She has been such an icon here in Tennessee, you know, and she is such a community servant as well. That not only for her songs, but for everything she does, and you know, her literacy program and all that. We really respect her for what she's done and what's that. So she's really a great person.
Dolly, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
But I've been listening lately to an artist called Sturgill Simpson. He's based in Kentucky, and he's country, but he has a lot of experimental music as well. So if you're not super into country, I would encourage you to check that out. Yeah.
So, consistent with everything here, I was going to say Dolly as well, because how can you not?
Yeah.
So I'll go. I went off on a little tangent and learned a lot more about the early recording artists, since I do spend some time in Bristol, in the Bristol area, the Bristol sessions, and learning about where things kicked off with the Carter family and Jimmy Rogers. And that just is, you can listen to that now and it's still pretty authentic. So I've kind of got a little sub-fascination with that, which is way off brand for me, I have to say. But I still love it. Question 3. What is the lock screen photo on your phone?
It is my dogs, Charlie and Macy. So, and my children remind me daily that it is not them.
I'm boring. I don't have a photo on my lock screen. It's just the screen itself. So.
Oh, wow. That is an old school answer.
Yeah, that's right. Showing my age.
Yep. Mine's my kids. Yep. Very.
Mine is, I figure it's 16 different photos. They change every hour. I figured out
wow.
how to, you
That's
can put
cool.
little landscapes. So it's West Virginia and golf scenes and just beautiful scenes. So it changes every time I pick up my phone. And our fourth and final, what is your favorite city in the United States to visit besides the place where you live? And for our guests, I'll say besides Tennessee, because I don't want you to go on record and get in any kind of trouble. But Rhonda, where's yours?
I really think it's New York, New York City. I love wandering around the streets, and I love finding the used bookstores and the Strand bookstore. And so I would just say New York City probably.
Probably mine is the wine country in California, up through Napa Valley and Sonoma Valley. We've really enjoyed going up into those areas.
I don't have a favorite city, but Oregon, I've been there a few times, and I joke with my husband that if I had found my way there in my early 20s, we wouldn't be here today.
Well, because of where we are this week, I'm going to say Nashville, because I have so enjoyed Nashville. Ronnie, you should see the State Library building that we went.
I've been there.
Oh, have you been there? Okay, of course you have. Of course you have. Rhonda's our library tourist. But this is just a very visitable city. I drove in from West Virginia to Nashville, not that hard. A little bit of that long Tennessee, but it is, this city is got such an energy and thriving, and it's just been really fun. So I'm going to totally be a suck up and say Nashville for today.
I do wish I was there with all of you, and but it was great visiting with you online and seeing you again, Jeff. And so that's a wrap of this episode of Lady Justice, Women of the Court. And thanks again to Tennessee Supreme Court Justice Jeff Bivins and Anne-Lousie, and Director of Access to Justice and Strategic Development for the Administrative Office of Tennessee Courts. We hope everyone listening has enjoyed hearing about the Tennessee Justice Bus as much as we have enjoyed talking about it today. We will make sure we share some links and pictures so that you can learn more about it. And I think that Beth and I are going to heavily look into whether we can get buses in our own states or we just need to have the Walker Wood bus. and take it on the road, and with the refrigerator though. But in the meantime, we will be back with another episode, and please, follow us on social media or subscribe to Lady Justice, Women of the Court. And thank you again for your time, and thank you, Tennessee, for being such great hosts today of the podcast.
Thank you for having us.